Have you ever stopped to think about how appearances can be deceiving? Sometimes, what we see on the outside doesn't reflect the true value a person carries within. And that's exactly what today's story is all about. A man who, despite having everything money can buy, decided to test whether respect and kindness still exist in the world. But in the midst of this plan, he found something he never expected: love. If you've ever felt judged by your appearance or believe that true values lie in the heart, this story is going to resonate deeply with you. Arnold, at 35, owned a vast network of luxury car dealerships spread across the country. Despite his life surrounded by wealth and status, he wasn't driven by money. For Arnold, what truly mattered was respect for people and the principles that guided his life. He always believed that everyone, regardless of their financial condition, deserved to be treated with dignity. This was the foundation of his business, but he often wondered if his employees were upholding those values. Arnold wasn't married, nor did he have anyone in his life at the moment. Not that opportunities were lacking. With his attractive appearance and social status, many women were interested, but he always remained focused on his work and his values. He was a reserved man, seeking more than just looks or wealth in any relationship. In recent months, something had been bothering him. He had been receiving comments and complaints about the way customers were treated at his dealerships. Because of this, he decided that he needed to see with his own eyes how people were being treated in his stores. And to do that, he came up with a plan. He would make a disguised visit, going unnoticed, looking like someone of humble appearance. Arnold didn't need a major transformation. To appear more modest, he simply swapped his expensive clothes for worn-out jeans, a faded t-shirt, and old sneakers. His simple appearance, with slightly messy hair, was enough to make a difference. He drove to one of his busiest dealerships, Elite Motors, in an old beat-up car that showed signs of wear. As soon as he got out of the car and entered the store, Arnold could feel the contrast between himself and the luxurious environment around him. The cars gleamed under the showroom lights, each one more impressive than the last. It was as if the shine of the place made his simple appearance stand out even more. He expected to be treated coldly or dismissively, and indeed, that's exactly what happened. Arnold wandered through the showroom for a few minutes without being noticed. No salesperson approached him immediately, as they were busy with other customers who seemed more promising. But eventually, a salesperson named Jake, who had been on the phone, finished his call and decided to approach him. "Need anything?" Jake asked, clearly lacking enthusiasm. He glanced at Arnold from head to toe, and it was evident he was judging his simple appearance. "Yes, I'm interested in learning about some of the cars for sale," Arnold replied calmly. Jake crossed his arms and let out a sigh. "Sir, we deal with luxury cars here. I'm not sure if this is the kind of vehicle you're looking for. You might want to try another dealership." Arnold remained calm and asked if he could speak to the manager. Jake, visibly annoyed, responded curtly, "The manager is busy. He can't see you right now." Arnold knew that the manager had actually refused to see him, thinking it wouldn't be worth his time. That only confirmed his suspicions. However, something unexpected happened that day. As he waited, something occurred that would change the course of his life. While Arnold stood there, a young receptionist approached. Her name was Elsie, a delicate woman with long wavy brown hair and a smile that radiated kindness. But it wasn't just her beauty that caught Arnold's attention. There was something different about her, something genuine and warm, something that immediately touched him. "Sir, can I offer you a coffee while you wait?" Elsie asked in a soft voice, her eyes filled with warmth. Arnold was surprised, not just by her kindness, but by the positive energy Elsie exuded. He felt an instant connection, something he hadn't expected when he entered the dealership that day. He accepted the coffee with a sincere smile, and soon the two of them started talking. During their conversation, Arnold realized that Elsie had an impressive knowledge of cars, even though she was just a receptionist. "I've always loved luxury cars," she said, her eyes lighting up. "Especially the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Every detail can be customized. It's like a work of art." Arnold was captivated, not only by Elsie's passion for cars, but also by the respect and delicacy with which she treated him. He hadn't expected to feel this, a genuine attraction for someone he hadn't even known minutes earlier. There was something more to Elsie than her physical appearance. Her kindness and love for what she did stirred something in Arnold that he couldn't quite explain. When the salesman Jake returned to inform him that the manager wouldn't be able to see him, Arnold realized there was an opportunity there. First, he had already noticed the disdain with which many of the employees treated those who didn't seem wealthy. That deeply disappointed him. But what he hadn't anticipated was the desire to return to that dealership, not just to further evaluate his employees, but to see Elsie again, the young receptionist who had sparked something in his heart. That evening, as Arnold drove home, he reflected on what had happened. He had gone to the dealership with the sole intention of testing his employees, but he left with a different feeling. Something about that conversation with Elsie had moved him. It was more than just her passion for cars, it was the sincere connection they had formed. And for the first time in a long while, Arnold felt the desire to get to know someone, to return and get closer. A few days later, Arnold returned to Elite Motors, once again in disguise, to continue his investigation. But deep down, he knew his motivation now also included seeing the young receptionist who had impressed him so much. As he entered the dealership, he spotted Elsie from afar, chatting with a customer. When she noticed his arrival, she gave him a warm smile, as if she had been expecting him. This time, Arnold knew he needed more than just observations. He needed to find out who Elsie was, what her life was like, and most importantly, why she had such an effect on him. The connection he felt in her presence was something entirely new to him, and he wanted to explore it. Arnold approached the reception desk. "Hi, Elsie. Do you remember me?" he asked, trying to hide the slight nervousness he now felt. She smiled again. "Of course, I remember. How can I help you today?" Arnold and Elsie talked once more, and the conversation flowed so naturally that it felt as though they had known each other for a long time. She shared with him that she had always dreamed of working with cars, but had never had the opportunity to study enough to land a technical position. Even so, she was happy in her role as a receptionist, as it allowed her to be close to what she loved. Arnold, though still in disguise, felt an urge to help her, but he knew it wasn't the right time to reveal who he truly was. He wanted to get to know her better, to understand her story and the passion that drove her. At the same time, he needed to see if this connection he felt was real or simply a product of the moment. He continued visiting the dealership in the days that followed, always keeping an eye on the employees but more importantly, seizing every opportunity to talk with Elsie. With each conversation, he learned more about her, and with that, his interest only deepened. She was different from anyone he had ever met, simple, kind, passionate about her work. And most importantly, she didn't judge him based on the appearance he was presenting. Over time, Arnold realized that his initial intention, to test his employees, had given way to something much bigger. He was falling for Elsie, a woman who, unknowingly, had stirred within him a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. The connection between Arnold and Elsie grew stronger each day. He knew that soon he would have to reveal his true identity and tell her who he really was. But before that, he wanted to be sure that the feeling was mutual and that the relationship they were building was based on something real, not on status or appearances. Arnold knew that the greatest wealth in life wasn't found in material possessions, but in the people we choose to have by our side. And he was becoming more certain that he wanted Elsie by his. As the days passed, just as Arnold was becoming enchanted with Elsie, she too began to develop a growing interest in the seemingly simple yet charming and mysterious man. With every visit Arnold made, Elsie's heart seemed to beat a little faster. The way he listened to her, the calm and serene way he spoke about cars, and even the simplicity of his attire, all of it made her curious, and at the same time, captivated. Arnold was unlike any customer she had ever met at Elite Motors. He didn't seem impressed by the glitz and glamour surrounding the cars in the showroom. While many people came there only to flaunt their wealth, Arnold appeared to have a genuine respect for the vehicles, but most of all for the people. This touched Elsie deeply, for even in her position as a receptionist, she had always believed that cars were more than just expensive machines. They were a combination of art, engineering, and passion. And somehow, Arnold seemed to feel the same way. One day, after another visit from Arnold, Elsie found herself thinking about him after work. She wondered who he really was. As much as he seemed like a simple man, there was something that didn't quite add up. The way he spoke, the knowledge he displayed, it wasn't common to meet someone like that. And that curiosity, mixed with the growing fondness she felt, made her even more intrigued. With each conversation, Arnold and Elsie seemed to grow closer. What started as discussions about cars quickly evolved into more personal topics. He would ask about Elsie's dreams, about her life before working at the dealership. And she, with sincerity, shared a bit of her story. "I always wanted to study automotive engineering," she confessed one day, her eyes lighting up as she spoke of her dream. "But I never had the opportunity. So when I got this job, I was happy because at least I could be close to the cars I love." Even in disguise, Arnold felt a pang in his heart as he heard that. He wanted to help her, but he knew it wasn't yet time to reveal who he really was. He understood that, when the moment was right, he would do something significant for her. But for now, he cherished the simplicity of what they were building together. On the other hand, Elsie was also becoming more and more interested in Arnold, not just as someone who admired cars. There was something more, something that made her eagerly look forward to each of his visits. It was as if, with each conversation, they were connecting on a deeper level. Despite the growing bond with Elsie, Arnold never lost sight of the original reason for his visits to Elite Motors, to test the true attitude of his employees toward their customers. Every time he returned to the dealership, his sharp eyes caught the same deplorable behaviors. The salespeople, always dressed to impress, continued to treat him with disdain. They barely concealed their impatience and contempt for the man of humble appearance, who, in their eyes, couldn't possibly afford even the cheapest car in the showroom. As excuses were always the same. "The manager isn't available. That car is out of your reach. Maybe you'd like to see something more affordable." Arnold listened calmly, observing and analyzing. He was frustrated, but not surprised. He had already suspected that the respect and courtesy, values he held so dear, weren't being practiced by the people he trusted to represent him. The only exception to this coldness was always Elsie. While the salespeople ignored him or even made subtle jokes among themselves, Elsie continued to treat him with the same respect and kindness. She never judged anyone by their appearance, and this only strengthened the feelings Arnold was developing for her. With each conversation, he learned more about the young woman who, with her simple and passionate nature, had stirred something deep within him. Yet, at the same time, a question grew: how would Elsie react when she learned the truth? Arnold realizes the time has come. After many visits, Arnold knew the moment for the revelation was near. He had learned everything he needed to about the staff at Elite Motors. He knew that many of them had failed to treat people with the dignity they deserved. And now, with the connection he had built with Elsie, he also knew there was something far more important at stake. The lesson he needed to teach his employees was now intertwined with the concern of how Elsie would react when she found out that the man she had been connecting with was, in fact, the owner of it all. He didn't want her to feel deceived. There was something very real between them, and Arnold wasn't willing to lose that. But he also couldn't continue hiding the truth. Arnold planned his final visit, but this time it would be different. He would arrive in the same simple clothes, just as he had done on all previous visits. But now, he was ready to reveal his true identity. The question weighing on his heart was, how would Elsie react? Would the fact that he was a millionaire, someone who had disguised himself to test his own employees, change how she felt about him? Arnold walked into Elite Motors once more, wearing the same simple attire as before. The salespeople gave him the same looks, disdain mixed with impatience. But Arnold wasn't there to confront them directly just yet. He knew that moment would come soon. His first goal was to find Elsie. As soon as he saw her at the reception, his heart raced. Her smile was still the same, full of kindness and warmth. She greeted him with the same gentleness, unaware that this would be a day that would change everything. "Arnold, it's so good to see you again. What brings you here today?" she asked, always attentive. He smiled, but this time with a hint of nervousness. "Actually, Elsie, I came today to tell you something important. I haven't been completely honest about who I am." Elsie frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, the manager, Henry, appeared. As usual, Henry completely ignored Arnold, focusing only on the customers he deemed real buyers. And at that moment, Arnold decided that the revelation wouldn't be just for Elsie, but for everyone. Arnold took a deep breath and, with a calm gesture, pulled his wallet from his pocket. "Actually, I'm Arnold Carter, the owner of this chain of dealerships. Silence swept through the showroom. All the employees, including Henry and the salespeople who had treated Arnold with disdain, were in shock. The looks of surprise were quickly followed by nervous murmurs. Jake, the salesman who had ignored Arnold so many times, went pale. Henry, his face flushed with embarrassment, could barely look him in the eye. "I've been coming here over the past few days to see how you treat your customers, especially those you consider without potential. And I must say, I'm extremely disappointed. The only person who showed the respect and values that I hold dear was Elsie," Arnold said, his voice firm but controlled. The embarrassment was palpable. The salespeople didn't know where to hide. Henry tried to stammer out an excuse, but Arnold cut him off. "I don't want to hear excuses. You judged me by my appearance, underestimated me, and failed to value what truly matters, character. And because of that, there will be changes." Arnold turned to Elsie, who was still processing what she had just heard. She looked at him with a mixture of surprise and emotion, unsure of what to say. Arnold approached her, his heart racing, fearing how she would react. "Elsie," he said in a softer tone, "I know this revelation might be a shock. I never wanted to deceive you. Everything we said to each other, every conversation, was real. I just wanted to make sure that respect was upheld in my dealerships, and you were the only person who demonstrated that." Elsie, still a bit stunned, finally spoke. I don't know what to say. I knew there was something about you, but I never imagined this." Arnold stepped forward, his voice filled with sincerity. "I feel like we've built something special, Elsie. And I don't want to lose that. But I understand if you need some time to process everything." Elsie looked into Arnold's eyes, and in that moment, she realized that regardless of who he was or how much money he had, what truly mattered was the man she had gotten to know. The man who, even in disguise, had respected her, listened to her, and made her feel special. She smiled, a smile full of understanding and warmth. "I feel like we've built something too, Arnold. And the fact that you are who you are doesn't change that. What matters is who you've been with me all this time." Arnold let out a sigh of relief, and then, without further hesitation, he extended his hand to her. "Would you give me a chance to see where this could lead?" Elsie, with a heart light and full of hope, took his hand. "Yes, I would." In the days that followed, the changes at Elite Motors were swift and profound. Henry and the salespeople who treated customers with disdain were fired, and Arnold made sure to hire people who, like Elsie, valued respect and dignity above all. And as for Elsie, she was promoted to a position that combined her passion for cars with her exceptional people skills. But more importantly, Arnold and Elsie decided to give love a chance. What began as a simple test to evaluate the values of his employees turned into something much greater, an unexpected love story, built on respect, admiration, and above all, the truth of what really matters. The lesson was not only learned by the employees at Elite Motors, but also by Arnold. He had entered that dealership ready to teach, but he left with something money could never buy, the sincere love of a woman who saw him for who he truly was, beyond any disguise or title. And so, between the luxury of cars and the simplicity of feelings, Arnold and Elsie began a new chapter of their lives together. If this love story and life lesson touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who you know will love a happy ending like this. Let's continue spreading more stories that touch the heart. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.